الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Continuing on our lessons on the da'wah, methodology of giving da'wah roadmap. Last week we began talking about da'wah towards atheists and those who don't believe in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we said last week that the easiest way to prove Allah's existence, which is obligatory for every Muslim to know, is by using the argument of the fitrah, by proving Allah's existence in the sense that Allah's existence is amrun fitri. It's an affair which is based on the fitrah. Allah put it in us. Fitrat Allah lati fatara an-nas alayha. The fitrah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created mankind upon. And we said that that argument is the easiest and quickest way to reach the conclusion that Allah exists. And there is another argument as well, which the ulama they mention, it's in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned. And that is the argument to do with causes, everything created or everything that began to exist or came into existence needs something or someone to bring it into existence. And before going there, when giving da'wah to the atheist, you have to first prove Allah exists. Then Allah is one. Then the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to the creation by way of the prophets and messengers. And then finally that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last messenger. That's the methodology we're using. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymin he gave. So number one, you have to prove Allah exists. And you can use many arguments, but you have to use a sound argument. And number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only exists, He is one. And we already explained how to prove that. Third, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to the creation by way of the messengers. Okay, it's important because the question people ask, how come Allah doesn't talk to us directly? That's a good question. But that's not why Allah created us or how Allah created the world. There's a purpose. So we'll talk about that. And if you believe there's prophets and messengers alayhimus salam that came, then lastly you believe, you have to believe Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the last one. وَلَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِ, there's no prophet after him. Let's begin now by talking about a second argument to prove Allah's existence, and then we'll get to some common doubts or questions about the atheists may ask about Islam. So last week we talked about the evidence called Dalil Fitri, the evidence from the fitrah. This week we'll talk about what's called the cosmological argument, a fancy name, or Dalil Khalq al-Ijad, the ulama they call it, and other names. And this one is in the Quran. Okay, it's in the Quran, so we're going to read it, what Allah says in the Quran, and we're going to present the argument as Allah presents it. This one works. This argument works. Why? Because people past and present became Muslim by way of it. Well, we mentioned last week the Sahabi Jubair bin Mut'im bin Adi radiyallahu anhu. He became a Muslim when he heard this ayah, chapter 52, Surah Tur, ayah 34, 35 and 36. Okay, it's 52, 35, 36. So if you read those ayat, when he heard this, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reading in Salat al-Maghrib. He wasn't a Muslim that time. He was a prisoner of war after Badr. He said, when I heard the ayat, it fell into my heart, Iman. Okay, it's important. These ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la ya'lam al-khalaq. Allah, He knows the creation. When Allah's words penetrate the heart, that's it. So when he heard this, what Allah is saying, he became Muslim. Hence, if you use the argument, it's very effective. Of course, there are a lot of supposed objections. We'll get to them a little bit. And if someone needs more, then there are more heavy, or more, you could say, academic responses. Because in atheists, the difficulty with them is that they argue a lot. Not necessarily because they have a lot of arguments and proofs, but because they're not easily convinced. You have to know that. There are people, typically, the atheist, because he's studying, some kind of science or studies, or he, is someone who's looking for a very high threshold of evidence. And we'll talk about how to answer that. So what's the argument? The cosmological argument is the argument Allah says in the Quran. قال الله تعالى أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون. Were they, the creation, created by nothing, or were they themselves the creators? أم خلق السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون. Or how are they the create, or do they create the heavens and earth? Rather, they have no firm belief. Okay, so Allah says, were they the creation created by nothing? That's option one. Or option two, were they themselves the creators? Or option three, right? Allah doesn't mention option three, but continuing option two. Or did they create the heavens and earth? No, but they have no firm faith. So Allah mentions 2 of the 3 options, and He doesn't mention the 3rd one because it's self-evident, which is Allah created you or someone else created you. So if someone were to ask someone, where did you come from? They can only have 1 of 3 answers. You created from nothing. Number 2, you created yourself. And number 3, someone or something created you. That's it. There's no other response. And the mulhid, the atheist, is going to say one of those 3. He's going to give one of the 3 answers. And the Muslim, the mu'min, is going to give one of the 3 answers. There's no 4th one. The problem is the atheist doesn't see that Allah is the one who created us. So even without presenting further, we could just ask them, so what do you think of these 3? Nothing? Yourselves or someone else? He has to say someone else. He's aqil, he's using his brain. Because if he says we're created from nothing, which is what the atheists say, they actually say that, right? Which is illogical. No aql there, right? That would be an argument against them. In fact, it works their case very weak and they put themselves in trouble because now you admitted you're ignorant. And the biggest atheists in the world today, they say this. Imagine, brothers and sisters, we have to get away from the idea that atheists are highly intelligent. Maybe in the science they are. When it comes to theology, aqidah, they're zeros, most of them. And I'm talking about the scientists amongst them. As for the philosophers amongst them, they know the power of his argument. So they don't give you very cheap replies. So we have to remember, the atheists are 2 groups, the philosophers and the scientists. Who is more difficult? The philosophers. Because those people study kalam, they study philosophy in the West. And they have a lot of shubuhat. As for scientists, he doesn't have anything. He's not very strong. He's going to tell you what. And I'll show you later. His arguments are like, what's the best he can bring you? Evolution? Has nothing to do with Allah. I know some of us, we get intimidated. Evolution has nothing to do with God. Has nothing to do with it. So scientists, most of them, they don't know a lot about aqidah. But the philosophers, when you present these arguments, if you argue with someone like that level, he knows how strong his argument is. He knows, because the argument you're presenting, he's trapped between the 3. He can't just say, no, I was created out of nothing. Oh, no, that doesn't work. You have to give an answer. So as Muslims, we have to understand that this argument is foolproof, because who presented it? Rabbul Alameen, Allah. Right? Allah presented it. There's no way you can overcome Allah's argument. Anyone who thinks otherwise doesn't understand it. So first, you have to have that trust. Right? فَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. But everyone who has knowledge, more knowledgeable. So scientist says knowledge, Allah said it. You can't tell me you know more than Allah. And therefore, we have to take a side benefit. The one who's rational, the one who's intelligent, is not the one who knows certain things. It's the one who knows right and follows it, and he knows wrong and he avoids it. وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Right? من أصحاب السعير. If we only used our brains, and we only listened to what was revealed, we would not have been from the people of the hellfire. See, Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah says, look at this. Who's aqil? Who's intelligent? The one who knows the right, the good, and he follows it. The one who knows evil, and he avoids it. Today we're like, this guy's so smart. How smart is he? Does he believe in Allah? That's not smart. But sometimes what happens is we think so. They're going to admit the Ashab al-Jahannam, we didn't use the aql. The aql cannot take you away from Allah. It's supposed to bring you to Allah. Why? Because how can the intellect take you away from the one who made it to begin with? Allah. The one who made it, he can only lead you back. You can't be like, oh, my aql told me Allah doesn't exist. Where'd your aql come from? وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. So even your own selves is proof. Hence, this argument is not one argument. It's a series of arguments. Scholars in the past and present have presented different ways of how to establish the argument. So without getting too technical, we're going to present the argument as is like this. This is one of the forms. And it goes like this. There's two premises and one conclusion. And there's different ways of presenting it. You don't have to present it in a logical form. So just a fa'idah. When it comes to arguments, brothers and sisters, when it comes to arguments in Islam, hujjaj aqliya, logical arguments, scholars before and present, those who are from the philosophers, those who usul al-fiqh, those who ilm al-munadhara, they had a rule how to present arguments. Today you learn it. We call it a formal argument. Premise or argument, point number 1, premise or point number 2, then conclusion. That's how they used to do it, and people till today do it. That's called a formal argument. You don't need to present formal arguments to rational or argue with people. But if someone say, what's the argument? How do you form it? You have to tell them like this, 1, 2, conclusion. So as Muslims, we don't need this. Many of the ulama, they used it against people who are trained in those kind of arguments. And the reason why is because the formal argument is how someone can see, what's your point? Otherwise, the ulama said you could present this argument in an even simpler way. You don't have to present it that way. You can present it like Allah presents it. Human beings, where did they come from? Option 1, nothing. Option 2, ourselves. And option 3, somebody or something created us. That's the way you can present it. But if someone said, give me the formal argument, this is usually found in the books of logic or books they call ilm jadal, the books of argumentation. They say like this. Premise 1, the first point, everything that is caused must have a causer. And everything that is caused means created. You can say that everything that's created must have a creator. Or you can say everything that's caused must have a causer. I think the first one is easy. Everything that's created has to have a creator. The universe is created or is caused. Therefore, the universe has a creator or cause. That's it. Very simple. It's very strong argument and it's very logical. Because everyone would agree, in the dunya, this makes sense. The problem is when you expand that to the universe, they say, oh no, this doesn't make sense. In the dunya, if someone says, where did the Apple phone come from? iPhone, you're not going to say iPhone came out of nowhere. No, nobody was worth any, no one has any intellect says that. So what did they say? Apple made the iPhone. Okay. And who made the Tesla? They say Elon Musk. And who made that? Okay, so who made the universe? Nobody. You see, so there is the problem. They say in the dunya, they say it works. But outside dunya, it doesn't work. We say, no, this is not correct. In the dunya, you confirm this point. Everything that's created or made has to have something who made it. And this is a simple argument and it works. But the people who don't want to accept it, they usually try to attack the idea from these 3 points I mentioned. First 2 premises or points in conclusion. Where do they attack? They attack the first one. They say, not everything that's created or caused has a creator or causer. They say the first one's not true. So now is another benefit. When it comes to arguments, if you present someone an argument, how do they respond to your argument? They can respond to your argument in many ways. They can reject the whole argument. They can reject one of the points you said in the argument. They can reject the conclusion of the argument. So when you look at these arguments, you see, when you tell someone an argument, it's upon them down to prove to you why you're wrong. Okay, brothers and sisters, you have to understand. Ad-dalilu ala mudda'i. If I make a claim, I got to prove it. And if you make a claim, you got to prove it. The atheist, what he likes to do, he says, okay, your turn, you tell me why Allah exists. Why does he start? Because he doesn't want to deal with the proof. He says, okay, you start. No. You make the claim that God doesn't exist, right? Muslims say, and people around the world, majority of people say Allah exists. Who has the default setting? Us. Because last week we said, most people are born, if everyone's born, believing in Allah. So what's the origin? Allah exists. So you tell me why He doesn't. You see, once you throw the ball in their court, that's when the problem starts. Because now He has to give you something as to why He doesn't believe. And most of His arguments are not that good. But you see, what they do is they throw you the ball. So you have the ball, now you tell me why. And most of us be like trying to find out how to prove it. By the time you figure it out or didn't figure it out, He just doesn't have to care. Because He's trying to make you answer. So what does the deen say? Whoever makes a claim has to bring proof. Either pro or con, against or for. So we're going to say, if you don't like my argument here, tell me why it's wrong. Okay, someone cannot say, I don't agree with you and that's it. No, that's not an academic. That's hawa. Allah says, if they don't follow the haqq, فَعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا, know that they're only following ahwahum, their desires. Now why am I saying this? Because someone comes to you and says, oh no, I don't agree. Okay, show me why. Where is it wrong? Very, very important, brothers and sisters. We have to be people of knowledge, but also have to stick it to the people who don't have the knowledge. Okay, tell me why. If you don't have it, then you can have nothing. You're just following your hawa. So when we say the first point, everything that is made or caused has to have a causer. Or everything created has a creator. The universe is caused or made, therefore it has a creator. That's it. So from here you can see that the atheist will attack one of the 2 points. Either he's going to deny that everything has to have a cause, or he's going to deny that the universe is created. One of the 2. Mostly they go for the first one. Why? Because that one, they can bring some gymnastics. But if they follow science, they cannot argue the second one. Because the scientific community almost made ijma', the universe has a beginning. So another way of presenting the argument, everything that has a beginning has to have a creator or someone who brought it into existence. So let's look at the options. Option number 1, the first point. Everything that is caused or made has a causer. Alright, sometimes people say everything that began has one who brought it into existence. This point is self-evident. In Islam, we call it, in science, they call it the causal principle. And in Islam, we call it mabda' as-sababiyyah. What is mabda' as-sababiyyah? Cause and effect. We all agree in cause and effect. If I hit you in the back of your head, you know somebody hit you. You're not going to say, I got hit from nowhere. Right? And the ulama, they say that the cause and effect is called causality, or the principle of causality. Every cause Every effect has a cause. Somebody crashed the car, right? There's a cause. And the effect hit somebody else's car. We agree to this. So scholars say that when it comes to dunya, the dunya suddenly came into existence. And the universe didn't exist, then it came into existence. How did it come into existence? Who made it? That's the question we're trying to find out. So the question is, the universe has now existed suddenly. Not suddenly, about millions of years ago, Allah knows when. And the question is, who made it? That's what we're trying to investigate. The people today who are atheists say, oh, I don't agree with that. The universe, no, it didn't just exist. It didn't just come into existence. Some of them say the universe always existed. Now today, in today's world, anyone who says that, mashallah, that's in your favor. You're going to just hit him in the head with the science. So you follow science, right? It's almost ijma' in your community that the universe came into existence. So no one says that. But in the past, they used to say that. The universe is eternal. Number one, that's kufr. Okay, brothers and sisters, anyone who says the universe always existed, it's kufr, right? Because who's the one who's eternal? Allah. Anyone who says something else is eternal is kufr. Number two, it's logically and scientifically wrong. So now, they're not going to say that. So we're going to say, so we need to find a cause. They will say, okay, fine. We know everything in the dunya, a cause, every effect has a cause. And ulama say the causal principle, cause and effect, is amr fitri. Go back to fitrah. How do we know every cause has an effect? Allah put it in you. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, look at the example he gives. He says the existence of a cause, or a constant without a cause, for its existence is falsehood known by necessity. Anyone who says there's an effect with no cause, or something came into existence without a cause, it's against the intellect. This is known by necessity. Even he says it's ingrained in the humans, even children. Look at the example. If a child is struck, he will say, who hit me? If it is said to him, no one hit you, his mind will not accept the idea. He will not accept the idea. So like this, Ibn Taymiyyah says, if someone logically thinks it is possible for writing, or a building, or a garden can produce without a cause, then such a person is considered insane according to people's intellect. Or is someone who is considered a sophist, and someone who's talking nonsense and he's just trying to deny the basics. Pay attention to what Ibn Taymiyyah said. There's only one of two. Someone said, I believe things can come out of nowhere. One of two. Is majnoon, is insane, or is someone who's upon batil, he's trying to rationalize batil. He knows his lie. So children now, if you come to a child and you're not supposed to hit a child, right? But if someone hit a child, another child, and then the child will look behind him. Why is he looking behind? Because he felt the hit from the behind. He's not going to look forward and say, who hit me? So children, where did they learn that? Fitrah. Allah put it in them. Now, the same thing happens, we said last week, when it comes to the world around us. Children, when they ask questions, they say, who made the sky? Who made the sun? Who made the clouds? Who made the ocean? That's the question children ask. They're looking for an answer. They never say, the sky made itself. Right? The sky just came out of nowhere. Now, why is it important? If children know this already, that means it's fitri. It's built in. And every one of us today, we use that argument. Something happened, we're looking for the cause. Law, or sort of criminology and forensic, this is what it's based on, right? Who killed this person? We're looking for the cause. If science is based on the cause. Here's a nice point. Science is based on causality. In science, what are you doing? You're studying the causes of things. Why is this person sick? Let's find the cause. What happened to this thing? So you're measuring or looking for causes. You hypothesize the cause, you look for it. Scientists agree the causes work in the dunya, but they deny that the whole world has a cause. So what they say, in the dunya, there's cause and effect. Before the dunya, no cause and effect. Why is that correct? We say, why is that correct? How does that work? If you agree it's in the dunya, why doesn't it work for the rest of the dunya? So example, if you say the dunya, there's cause and effect, if there has to be a cause for the forest, for example, the leaf that fell off the tree, there has to be a cause for the tree, a seed, and has to be a cause for the forest. Just make bigger things, right? You go from smaller things to bigger things. A bigger the entity, the bigger the cause, not the absence of the cause. You guys with me? If today I told you a small toy car needs explanation, why did this toy car end up in my room? I need an explanation. But I say, okay, why did a big car end in my room? Am I going to say there's no cause? The bigger the car, the bigger the reason I need to know why it's there. Hence, the bigger the universe is huge, the more reason why we need a cause. But these people want to deny that. So we tell them that you cannot deny. Now, of course, atheists are going to say, I don't accept it. So how do we respond to them? We're going to have to prove to them that the universe came into existence. But we're going to say, the ulama, they always focus on these principles. Cause and effect is fitri. Saying that the cause and effect doesn't exist is not fitri. It's something somebody made up in their head. So the ulama, when they responded to this, they came up with different responses. And the easiest way to look at it is that let's just entertain the outcomes. If you told me not every cause needs an effect, okay, let's look at the three options Allah gave. And this is called, right, examination and classification. Okay, in Islam they call it as-sabr wa taqsim, classification, examination. Let's look at all alternatives. Option 1, the universe came out of nothing. Option 2, it created itself. Option 3, something or someone created it. And we have to say someone. We cannot say something, because then we're back to the same problem. If you say universe was made by another universe, we're stuck in the same problem. Why? What made that universe? But we need to have something. When we say something, it's better to say someone. We need someone who made it, somebody who did it. Okay, so let's look at these options, because if you tell an atheist, I'm telling you brothers right now and sisters, doesn't matter if you have PhD or is an am in the street. You ask them one of the three, there's no way out of this. And the most intelligent of them, they say, the universe came out of nothing. I'm going to show you now, the smartest of them. Forget about the one who doesn't know anything. He will refuse to say the universe was made by somebody else. Imagine. That's how stubborn he is. So let's look at the first option. The universe was made out of nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't entertain that answer because everyone knows it's batil. And so Imam Sa'di in his book, Al-Barahin Aqliyah, and his tafsir, he mentions the three options. He said Allah mentions the first two options, and the third one he doesn't mention, because it's a self-evident one. Allah made us. So the first one was they were created from nothing. And this is impossible. Why is it impossible? Can something make something else? Can nothing make something? Is nothing something? No. That's it. The Arab would say, فَاقُدُ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْطِي. Something doesn't have, something can't give it. I have a brain. If nothing created me, it has no brain. How did I get a brain then? Right? The world has life. Something who doesn't have life made something has life. It's mustahil, impossible. That's it. The atheist, he knows this. But unfortunately, he wants to trick me and you and says, yeah, it's possible. How is it possible? Show me. And wallahi guys, wabillahi wa tallahi, they have no answer. Until today, in every subject they say, well, yeah, it came out of nowhere. Explain to me how that happened. One of them they say, and this is especially regarding evolution, it's a miracle. MashaAllah. I thought you didn't believe in miracles. They do actually. Life is a miracle. They say, show me a miracle. Your existence. Because he's going to tell you what? It came out of nothing. MashaAllah. So how did that happen? And why did it happen once? So you see, it's a full circle. That's why we tell them, pick your poison. You want to deny Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's miracles? So you're going to have to deny life existed, because it's a miracle. So when we say nothing, nothing is nothing. So that's impossible. But sadly, the atheists today, they say nothing made us. Who's examples? Let me give some examples. People like Lawrence Krauss, professor. Another example would be people like Stephen Hawking. These two people are big physicists. He's a big physicist today, cosmologist and physicist. Stephen Hawking is probably the biggest of our time. And he says that. And he says other things too. So he argued that we came out of nothing. Or he writes in his book called The Grand Design, page 144, because there is a law like gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing in the manner described in chapter 6. SubhanAllah. A'udhu billah. Imagine this man who has this intelligence, he's saying this, that the law of gravity, because of the law of gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Itself from nothing. So he took both of them. He created itself and created out of nothing. So you can see, as intelligent Stephen Hawking was, that's absolutely nonsense. Because nobody in the first year level of school studies will accept that. Because where did it come from? And if the universe can create itself out of nothing, when it was nothing, it has no qualities. Where did it get it from? Okay, he's following brother. So this is impossible. I'm sad to say that he said that. And others like this, they say. So we asked him, if you believe something came out of nothing, how come we don't witness that anymore? Only for the universe, right? We'll tell them, okay, in the dunya today, something comes out of nothing? They say, no. Only the universe came out of nothing. So that's a fallacy. What is that called? It's a fallacy, special pleading. Why are you making special cases for the universe, not the dunya? How come my phone doesn't come out of nothing? How come your child doesn't come out of nothing? How come your dinner doesn't come out of nothing? You see, but in the universe, have to come out of nothing. Oh, come on. It's special pleading. You made special rules for that one and nothing else. So it's a fallacy and it's also unintelligible. Brothers and sisters, are you with me? These are the biggest people in the world. This is the kind of stuff they're spending their life on. He finished his life. He died already. This is what he got. So we should not be scared of the atheists. A lot of people, they're scared because they're not spending the time looking at what they're saying. They're saying nonsense. This is nonsense. It's printed. It's published nonsense. So that argument, ulama, past and present, the philosophers and the ulama of Aqidah agree, nothing is not an option. This is scientists who came and said it's something. And you want to be very specific, it's not the mathematicians, it's the physicists. They're the ones who always say this kind of nonsense because they believe in things like quantum mechanics. And if someone would ask you that question, we'll talk about it later, how to answer it. Option number 2, the universe created itself. Is that possible? That's impossible. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said, anything whose existence can be replaced with its non-existence, and its non-existence can replace with its existence, then it did not bring itself into existence. What does he mean? If I could imagine the universe didn't exist, and I can also imagine it existed, that means someone had to make it. If you can think of anything that could be in existence or not in existence, let's give an example of a car. The car could exist or it doesn't have to exist. If you can think about a car existing, not existing, that means somebody made it. Why? Because it had to go from non-existence to existence. And you can't put yourself into existence. Right? They give the example of a mother giving birth to herself. Is that possible? Right? Doesn't happen. It's impossible because you have to be both out of existence and in existence at the same time. This is called mustahil aqlan. This is impossible. You guys with me? Imagine the car is coming into existence out of inexistent at the same time. So the roof, for example, the hood of the car is coming to existence and the trunk is inexistent. No. This is absolute nonsense. So it doesn't work. And everyone agrees. And someone says it doesn't agree, tell me where. Show me an example. They say it doesn't work. But the universe, it happened. No, you see, special pleading. Why universe? What? Same thing with first cell. Those who study biology, evolution, they say the first cell just existed. No one knows how it came. So how is that possible? We all came from that thing. Where did that thing come from? Nothing. No answer. So we tell them it's impossible. So remember, when we say impossible, there's different types of impossibilities. It's impossible in the aql. The brain cannot conceive of that because it doesn't happen. Because you cannot be in and out of existence at the same time. Right, brothers? It's like someone, can you see someone dead and alive? Same time? No. Can someone be moving still at the same time? These examples ulama use. When something is impossible in aql, example, something is moving and still at the same time. Is that possible? No. It's something all black, all white at the same time. Not half black, half white. All black, all white. Square, triangle. Okay, those are mustahil aqlan. Therefore, they don't exist in the world. With me? In existence, out of existence, impossible. And anyone who tells you it's possible, he doesn't know anything of aqidah, let alone know anything else. Brothers and sisters, with me? That's nonsense. And everyone would agree. Because when you see the models of how the universe came to existence, the cosmology, how does it start? There was a big bang out of nowhere. I don't care what happened after the bang. I want to know what happened during the bang. How did it start? How did the first cell come? There's a soup of proteins. And what's the soup doing there? MashaAllah, what was going on there? Who made that soup? And today they're finding out it doesn't work. Why? Because when you have something coming out of nowhere, you're always presupposing that it was already there. For example, ask a evolutionist, Darwinist, how did the world come to exist in the first cell? He always assumed there was a world once upon a time. Where did it come from? Where did this protein and amino acid come from? Why are you just always assuming it's there? Then the lightning hit it, mashallah, it's like some movie. He asked them, where did all these things come from? No answer. So anyone who cannot explain these things, brothers and sisters, doesn't have an answer to anything in life. We have to get to the bottom of it. These things don't answer any question. So that's impossible. What's the last option? And this is the real argument now. That something created the universe. Okay, now we're going somewhere. So what is that thing? It must be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Atheists will not accept that. So what do they say? The universe created the universe. We already said that's impossible. Or they'll say it created itself. Or they'll say, okay, it wasn't Allah. It was just something else but Allah. Tell them, okay, you want to call it what you want to call it. There's a name, you don't have to call it Allah, but you have to tell me what that thing is and what qualities it has. You can't just tell me it came out of existence. But they love to say the universe always existed. I tell them, sorry, that doesn't work. Because for them, they say, okay, how do you know it wasn't just the universe? The universe created itself. We just told you that's impossible. But now let's get to the second argument, the point we mentioned. The second point, the universe is already created or made. How do we know the universe is created? Okay, in the past, brothers and sisters, the ulama used a lot of arguments to prove the universe is not eternal. Because the philosophers, some of them, they believe the universe is internal. This is kufr. But today, science is proven almost definitively, it's almost definitive, according to majority of science, ijma' amongst them, that the world began somewhere in history. So how old do they say the universe is? Anyone knows? According to scientists? How old is it, roughly? They say 13.9 billion years. Allahu A'lam. 13.9 billion they say. Now they're actually pushing it back to 20 billion. Allah says, guys. They're playing around the doubts. You have to know that. Now they figured out maybe it's actually longer. The older they make it, finishes the argument. They're in bigger trouble. Now they're saying maybe 20 billion. MashaAllah, 20 billion. So now you have bigger questions to ask. Why? Because we're going to see the science, the older the universe is, the more problematic our existence is. But they say roughly 13.9. Okay, let's just accept that. That's the argument. Muslims, do we have a problem with this number? No. Because the Quran and Sunnah, what did they say about it? Nothing. Allah says in the Quran, you didn't witness. You didn't witness the heavens, the creation of heaven and earth, nor do you witness your own creation. So Islamically, we don't have any problem if it's long, big number, small number. Allah knows we didn't have. But unlike the Christians, okay, Christians and Jews, they have a problem, right? Because the Bible says, how old is the earth? 5,000 to 6,000 years old. So the Christians are in big trouble. Those guys, they have a problem because they say the 5,000 to 6,000 according to the Old Testament. That's a nonsense. That's qat'i nonsense, right? The ulama, they say, what world is that? It can be, because the earth, they say 4.9 billion years. And these guys say 5,000 to 6,000. They're called young earth creationists. Those guys, we tell them, okay, that's a proof your Bible's wrong, right? Who wrote this? Because when they're writing it, they're probably thinking, what's the oldest we can make it from? Right? They didn't have any idea. Where did they get that from? It's the batil. Ulama, here's the fa'idah, guys, miracle. Our deen has no number of how old the earth is. There's one hadith, da'if, very da'if jiddan, that says the earth is 10,000 years old. Da'if jiddan, no good. So what's the benefit? There's no hadith that says how old the world is. Imam Sana'ani, he said this is proof that Islam is true because Allah never mentioned that. So if they change the number up and down, doesn't matter. Our religion is the only religion has no date on the earth and the world. See, brothers, it's no joke. When you talk to atheists, they don't know that. I talked to one atheist. He said, you guys believe this? I said, no, we're not Christians and Jews. Shocked. What do you think we're dealing with? This is Islam. It's not Christianity, Judaism, okay? And that's a big problem. Atheists have no idea about Islam. They know about us, but they don't know about us. We have no number. Why? Because Allah sent the book. They have, no. Allah sent the book. So when we say this, we're like, okay, that's fine. But the question we have is, science says the universe started somewhere. Today, it's almost a definitive. There's two lines of evidence, logical and scientific. Let's use the scientific. Easier. Today, they believe in the Big Bang, or the universe is expanding. That proof the universe began. Second proof, you can use the ijma' of the scientific community. Ijma' is considered dalil according to them, because they always say there's an ijma' consensus, okay, on evolution. Okay, there's ijma' universe came to existence. See, they love to use ijma', even though there's no ijma' in evolution, just for your own benefit. Guys, everyone knows that when they say evolution, there's the ijma', there's no ijma'. There's a website you can see online, 3,000 scientists don't believe in evolution. Ijma' is gone. What's ijma' in Sharia, guys? What does ijma' mean? Consensus. What's the condition? Everyone who's in that field, of the mu'tabirun, those who are considerable, have to agree. 3,000 scientists say they don't believe in it. Don't tell me it's ijma'. Why lying to me? See? When we say ijma' ulama, we see all the ulama agreed, means everybody in the field agreed to the opinion, they didn't reject it. Or they kind of say, ijma', according to who? 3,000? Those 3,000 don't count? They don't have the same PhD you have? It's very important to see also how powerful our deen is. When we call ijma', we say nobody differed on this issue. Like, khamr is haram bil ijma' in Islam. No scholar in Islam says it's allowed, right? But these people come and say, it's consensus evolution allowed. No. Don't tell me that. But ijma' here is that they agree the earth began, the universe began. And third proof, the second law of thermodynamics. Whoever studies physics and science, they know the entropy. Point is, the universe began. They know this. So the question now, if the universe began, who brought it to existence? You got to answer that question. One of the three options. Now the atheist, like I said, he's going to conclude that it has to be either it came out of nowhere or something came into existence. Someone brought it into existence. They usually say the universe came out of nowhere, out of nothing. So we already said that that's illogical. Doesn't answer the question. Whoever says that to you, you have the right to respond to them and say, well, that doesn't answer anything. And now you made it a bigger problem. Because if you believe things come out of nowhere, then you need to show me evidence that it is true. Don't tell me it did. Show me. Now someone will say, okay, fine. The universe has a cause. Who's that cause? We say it's Allah. How do we know it's Allah? This is the point we have to answer. How do we know it's Allah? Well, whoever brought the universe into existence has to have knowledge. Because the universe is full of knowledge and details. The laws of gravity, the laws of this, the laws of that, all these laws. Who put it there? The one who put it there has to have knowledge. Because it's impossible. Something that has no knowledge brought something with knowledge. We also know that the cells, because pay attention here, brothers, the evolutionists, they say the cell, the first cell, started us, and then we came out of there. The first cell, does it have knowledge in there? Yes. Today they say there's DNA code already inside the first cell. Like how the computer is programmed, it's already built in. Where did it come from? That's one of the biggest problems in evolution. Big problem. Evolution is on its knees, brothers and sisters. It's done. It's not knowledge. Where does bioinformation come from? How does the nucleus node become a nucleus and not something else? So they found the ilm, there's knowledge in there, and information is immaterial. MashaAllah, thank you. It's not material, so you have a big problem. Where does immaterial knowledge come from something which is material? So we say knowledge comes from someone who's knowledgeable. Allah put it there. That's it. That's logic. Allah is knowledgeable. He put knowledge in the cell. They come and say the cell has no knowledge and he got knowledge. No. Second, the one who made the universe has to have power. That's all powerful. Look at the sky, how beautiful it is. Allah says, take a look at it. Do you see any holes in it? No. Allah says, do you see any pillars? No. Keep looking. You're not going to find. How about the fact that the universe is, right, mashallah, full of animals and mountains. Things are so tremendous in size. So it shows the one who has it as qudra and quwwah. Number 3, it also shows the person who did it has will, irada. He has a mashia, will. Why? Because why does the universe look the way it looks? Why is it so beautiful? You see, the problem of beauty and the argument of beauty. Why is the universe beautiful, not functional? See, brothers and sisters, beauty is not scientific. We all look at the sunrise and we say, mashallah. No one's going to say it's ugly. You can't say that. Look at it, look at it like, mashallah. Why is it beautiful? Why is the universe not functional? Because in Allah jamilun yuhibbu jamal. Take it from there, brothers. Ibn Qayyim says Allah is jameel in his sifat, wa asma wa af'al. You see, the argument of beauty is a powerful argument. Why do we even recognize beauty? When you look at it, you know something's beautiful. Where did it come from? And here's the better thing. We look at other planets, they don't have beauty. You see the pictures of Mars and stuff, it's just rock and stone. You look at us, you're like, mashallah, look at this greenery. What is this? That's another thing, irada. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to put 7 oceans, not 8. Why? It says in Surah Luqman, I think it's 7 oceans. So we have 7 oceans. Why not 8? Whoever chose it has irada. And next, the one who made it is all capable. Why? Because he didn't just create the earth, he created much more than that. Space and the stars and brothers and sisters, till today, aren't we just figuring out the universe? So what did we say about this? Whoever made the universe, if I give you these qualities, what do you think of? Allah. If he told me something else, tell me what is it? Please tell me what is this? What's this all-powerful, all-knowledgeable, all-capable being? Is the universe? Someone says universe. The universe can't even speak. How can it be the creator? You guys with me? Ibn Qayyim, he writes in Dar al-Sa'ada. When would the kafir stop calling the nature the universe? It can't speak. It doesn't have agency. Someone's a universe beater. So how come I can talk, he can't talk? And how come I can do things he can't do? See? This is nonsense, brothers. Imagine someone's a universe beater. Okay. And how come I can do whatever I want? The universe can't stop me. No. And they say the natural selection made. Natural selection doesn't exist. Where is it? It's something was a concept, but where is it? See? They say, oh, you believe in God. You can't see God. And you can see natural selection. And you can see quarks. You believe in black holes. Dare you? You believe in black holes? Yeah. They say, yeah. So where did you see it? All here in the aql, brother. See? The same guy will tell you, you believe in God, you believe in black holes? He's going to be like, oh no, this and that. Science guy, he's going to make up things. You didn't see it. There you go. You don't have to see things. I can see its effects. But I want to ask you, why you don't believe in Allah? Tell me rationally. Nothing. They have nothing on you. And me as Muslim have to have that quwwah, because it's not something that yesterday Muslims realized, guys. How many years ago, hundreds of years ago, ulama argued these points? Today what's happening is that science is increasing, but the knowledge of Aqidah studies is not increasing at the same level. Average Muslim now probably study more science than they study deen. It's true, am I right? Yeah. You guys went to probably high school science, and when it comes to Aqidah, most of us, we didn't pass level 1. And it's sad, because as a community, we're living in the West. We need to improve the angle, right? But the more you go in the angle, you quickly realize, no, what they're telling me, I still remember, brothers and sisters. When I was in grade 9, I still remember. I went to check the textbook just in case. They said in the book, imagine, this is what they're teaching kids. Once upon a time, the world had only 18 hours a day. Okay, I remember, I looked again, I was like, what in the world is this? 18 hours? Because, the moon helps, or it pulls on the waves, right, the ocean. So it creates the tide, ebb and flow. So it said, at that time, the pool was so significant, it took back some of the hours in the rotation of the earth. So it slowed down the rotation of the earth, we had less hours. I'm thinking, like, what kind of... Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the hours in the earth are 24, 12 hours in day and night. And in summertime is less, in winter. That's a hadith. So now I'm looking at the hadith, look what this guy's writing, 18 hours, where did they get that from? We know, everyone knows 24 hours. We have the science book, 18 hours? Yes, what is this? And we're supposed to read it and say, Sami'na wa ta'ana. No. This is why it's called speculative, brothers. It's called theoretical science. Please pay attention. Because imagine today we wrote that in the hadith. Imagine you had a hadith. The world used to have 18 hours. They say, look at Islam. And they're saying that same thing. And when Allah say, look at them. See, Muslims have to wake up. They also bend things for their benefit. And I talked about this a long time ago in the conference. When they find a mistake in their aqidah, they never change it. When we find some doubt, we say, I have to leave Islam. No, brother, you're ignorant. That's the problem. You think you know anything? That's the problem. You don't know nothing about your deen. That's why you have doubts. But if a Muslim has a question, what does he do? Ask him of knowledge. Do you think Islam doesn't have an answer? And I gave the example of Neptune. When they figured out the planets, they found out there's a problem between Uranus and Pluto, and there was a missing planet. It didn't make sense to orbit. So, of course, they didn't find Neptune yet, so they said, what are we going to do with this? I think that's correct, right? Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and someone can correct me, right? Yeah. But it's a long time ago. So, the Neptune, they couldn't find it yet. So, they didn't say, astaghfirullah, solar system's batil, we have to let go of it. No, they just hold on to it. And then finally, they found, mashallah, we found finally the planet. My question, why did they hold on to the belief even though it was not scientific? Because that's what you do when you have an aqidah. That's what you do when you have an aqidah. What's wrong with us nowadays? Someone comes and say, your prophet did this. What are you talking about my prophet? I know my deen. What do you know about the deen? Don't ever let someone tell you that. What do they know? They're jahil, akhi. Guys, Kafir asks something, what does he know? He doesn't know anything. You tell him, yeah, he did, and what's the problem? And you'll see him back foot. Because when you tell him, prove to me, he doesn't know anything. He's just throwing doubts. No, it doesn't work like that. As Muslims, we need more trust in the haqq. And what's happening today is that the arguments we're presenting, hundreds of years old, today is probably the biggest argument you find in the da'wah today. These are hundreds of years old. Muslims were always presenting arguments for the haqq, and we never changed our deen. In fact, what was happening is that other groups were changing their beliefs. So alhamdulillah for Islam, and so the conclusion will be, Allah made the universe. Now, of course, there's more arguments they can present or doubts, but because of the time, we're not going to get into it. This is sufficient. If someone has more questions, then we say, okay, we have more replies, but that's sufficient. Because people are not the same. Beginner, let's say someone has a serious question. Okay, then we can give you a more advanced answer. But if you present this argument, brothers and sisters, it works. It worked for Jubair Mut'im, anhu, and it worked for more people. Every day, someone who is told this agrees. So alhamdulillah for Islam, and this shows us another benefit, that the Quran and Sunnah is sufficient for us. Kitab and Sunnah is sufficient. Fitrah is in the Quran and Sunnah. Dalil khalq al-ijad, the cosmology argument, in the Quran and Sunnah. Alhamdulillah, Kitab and Sunnah is sufficient. Allah says in the Quran, then isn't the Quran sufficient for us? Right? Isn't sufficient for them that we revealed in the Quran? But what's happening today as Muslims is that we're not spending as much time maybe as we need to, or we never looked at it at that angle. Maybe that's another thing. We're learning now from that angle. Okay, I want to finish today's lesson by talking about some common doubts or objections atheists may present about deen. And this is important because you see the atheist, one of his problems, he has a lot of questions, a lot of questions about faith, about deen, Islam. How can we answer these questions? So we need to have some answers. So I'm going to raise some of the questions and give the answers. So when you talk to someone who doesn't believe, he often or she often will have a lot of questions that other people may not ask. Questions to do with why did Allah create us, or things to do with how do you know. So let's start with the first one. What is proof? When we tell the atheist, okay, we have proof Allah exists, what does proof mean? Proof for us means Kitab and Sunnah. It means a logical argument. It means something fitri. That's a dalil. We have a certain set of dalil. When an atheist says proof, what does he mean? Science. Science or theories like logic. We use some logical arguments or science. Mainly science. This is the favorite one. Yeah, historical evidence too, they may go there. So they look for material evidence. That's the main one, material. Or they look for aql argument, logical argument. So material evidence is I need some kind of study, show me some artifacts. So this is important. When it comes to evidence, we say evidence is not only material. We do believe there's other evidences. So before you talk to somebody, you might want to ask them, what do you take as evidence? So someone may say, well, I take only science. If someone says, I only take science, there's already a problem. Because you can't prove most things in the world with only science. For example, can you prove a rational statement, right, true or false through science? No. The claim that I only take science as proof, it cannot be proved by science. That statement itself cannot be proved by science. So science can only prove material things, can't prove immaterial things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we cannot see Him. He exists, but we can't see Him. He's ghaib, is part of the ilm al-ghaib. When we say ghaib, unseen, what is it meant, brothers? And sisters, it's something ghaib anna, from us, it's unseen to us now. When we die, ilm al-ghaib becomes not ilm al-ghaib, it's something seen. So there's alim al-shahada, the world we witness today, and alim al-ghaib. We have to pay attention to those two worlds. Alim al-ghaib is unseen, the malaika, wa jinn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jannah, Jahannam, it's called alim al-ghaib, unseen world. And right now, where are we in the dunya? What's this called? Alim al-shahada, the world of witnessing. I can see the world right around me. That's called alim, the world of witnessing, a world that can be witnessed. In science, they only focus on alim al-shahada. They don't know ilm al-ghaib. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنْ حَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. They only know the apparent of the dunya and the akhirah, no knowledge. So pay attention. If you tell a scientist now or anybody who's atheist, I have a proof, and you bring him an ayah or hadith about ilm al-ghaib, you say, look what he's talking about. He believes in things that you've never seen before. Because he doesn't believe in ilm al-ghaib. We told him, ghaib anna, it's unseen to us today. But when you die, it becomes alim al-shahada. That's why we have different levels of certainty as well. Pay attention to this point. So we need to explain to an atheist that evidence is not only science. If you believe that, you can't explain what? Your brain, your mind, your soul, your dreams. Can I keep going? Your language. So someone says, I believe only material evidence. Okay, so where'd you get the language from? No answer. How about your dreams? No answer. Do you have emotions? No answer. And an atheist, guess what? They don't believe in the soul. They don't believe in magic. They don't believe in dreams. They have any value. They don't believe in subjective experiences. They don't believe in consciousness. Wallah. They don't believe in morality. I can keep going. These are the baggage that come with being atheist. They don't believe any of that. So tell them, what's the purpose of your life? Nothing. See? Who wants to be atheist? You're telling me you have no purpose? No. You have no morals? No. Right now, are you talking to me? Do you actually have a rational experience? No. He's going to tell you your pain is illusionary. Allahu Akbar. My pain? Imagine someone died. There's a funny story. Someone died. And the atheist's mom, he died. So or someone he loved died. So they have to give, in the atheists and non-Muslims, they do like a talk or something, right? Some kind of obituary, you got to write some good words. What can he say? He's speechless. Right? She's in a better place? Yeah, right, according to him. She died, like she came, nothing. What kind of aqeedah is it? What kind of view is that? You tell them, so what do you do when someone dies? You can't say RIP, you can't say Rahimahullah. You guys are failures. Your mom dies, you can't say Rahimahullah. La hawla wa quwwata billah. And you see, the funny thing is they believe their moms have value. Why? You didn't have any proof for her existence, so you care about when she dies, but you can't account for where she came from. Wallah, guys, see? That's why atheists are the highest level of suicide amongst the world. There's no coincidence. Look at this connection. Also violence, right? It's connected to that too, in terms of war or other immoral behaviors. Yes. Let them not fool you. Muslims and religious people don't commit the most wars in the world. That's a lie. Second World War, that wasn't Muslim, that wasn't a religious person. Some people say Hitler was a theist. He was a Catholic. Some say he was an atheist. Okay, but what kind of aqeedah was following? Nazism. That's not Christianity, right? As far as I tell. So it's very important for Muslims to understand the baggage that comes with ilhad. It's absolutely a poison. It poisons everything. So we have to be honest now. Someone says, what's proof? We say proof is different types. In the Sharia, what's a dalil? There are many types, but you can know something one of three ways. We have to memorize this, brothers. 1 and 3 ways you can know something. Number 1, I can know something through the aql, the logic. That's one way of knowing something. Number 2, I can learn something through hiss, what's called sensory experience. Today in school, they call it empirical evidence. Hiss with your fingers and hands, 5 senses. That's called hiss. Sensory experience, or they call it empirical evidence. That's science. They use this, seeing, hearing, measuring. Thirdly, khabar, reports, news, testimony. What is history based on? Akhbar. History is based on reports. Someone told you that guy lived there. And how does that guy know? Because he also saw it. So he told you the report that he saw. You guys with me? So what's history? Somebody watched the Second World War. Then he wrote it down. Then he passed it down. You get the khabar, he had the hiss. See? 1 or 3 ways. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, he mentioned this point. This is why Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah we believe. You can know something 1 or 3 ways, not only one way. Scientists want to take the 3 ways and make it only one. So how do we respond to this? It's a wait a minute, this is wrong. How do we know? Number 1, how do you learn science? Do you do every experiment in every class for everything that you learn? You get a textbook and some scientist told you, and this happened, and this is the result. So you're listening to his report. Game over. I'm scared. Excuse me, do you do the science experiment yourself? No, I'm sorry. So you're following testimony. So what's the difference between you and me? I follow the hadith, and you follow the testimony of scientists. I follow the ulama, and you follow another group of ulama. Because scientists can be called ulama, alam of dunya. So that's important. How about, for example, aql? We use aql, they use aql. So why am I saying this? When someone says, bring me proof, remember what he's looking for. Material evidence. Tell him, sorry, I believe more than types. If he says, I don't accept it, tell him, okay, so who gave birth to you and your history? Can you tell me your history? Right? How old are you? Were you there when you were born? Right? They'll say, oh yeah, my mom was there. Okay, so you take the testimony or what? Yes. How do you know your mom's your mom? Well, she told me. Thank you. You were not there, right? So you have to accept reports. Why am I saying this? Islam is all three. Hadith Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what is it? It's a khabar, report. Of what? Something that chain of narration reported. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw, said, or did. Now pay attention to the school one. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we saw Jannah or Jahannam. Is it his? He saw it, right? Then he reported to us. Our akhbar are based on a his. Don't think it's otherwise. What? You say Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I saw Jannah, he saw it. So if he said he saw it, how dare you say he didn't see it? I believe Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw it. And you can't say he didn't because you never saw it. Unless you can see it, you can't say he didn't see it. See how strong this point is? Because someone will say, well, I never saw it. Yeah, when you die, you'll see it. He already saw it. But can you tell me definitively he never saw it? No. So why are you denying what he said? That's why hadith is one of the strongest changes to things. Quran, how do we know Quran is the book of Allah? We have akhbar, we have hadith. Sorry, to change the transmission of the Quran. And we have the physical copies of the Quran too. Because then someone says, give me his. Okay, here's the copy of Uthman. We have it too. We studied that in this class, around Friday classes. How the Quran was preserved. Okay, we have the Quran with us. Uthman's copy right there. What do you want? And they say it is Uthman's copy. See? We as Muslims are on the strongest ground that anyone can bring. But the problem we're having today is that Muslims, we need to be careful that we don't fall into the trap of evidence only, or there's only one type. Just some more common questions they may ask. Sometimes they ask the question, for example, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us? What's the wisdom of Allah's creating us? Which is a good question. So we as Muslims, you see, Allah created us for a purpose, which is to worship Him. So as Muslims, we don't believe the universe has no purpose. People ask, okay, so why are we here? We're here to worship Allah. Allah created us to worship Him, and we worship Him because He created us. Ibn Qayyim, he writes a very beautiful point in his book Bada' al-Fawaid, volume 4, page 971, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created the human beings for two overall purposes. Number one, something He wanted from them, and number two, something He wanted for them. So what is that Allah wants from us? Allah wants us to know Him, to know His beautiful names and attributes, to glorify Him and worship Him. That's what Allah wants from us. And this is allowed, and this is purpose, this is logical, and this is acceptable. Why? Because the one who created you has the right to put rights on you. So Allah, He created us, and He wants something from us, which is called worship. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That's over here. But what does Allah want, right, for us? Allah wants good for us, and He wants to judge us. Some will go to Jannah, and some will go to Jahannam. That's what Allah wants for us, the judgment. He wants to test us, and then give us reward and punishment. That's the purpose behind why He put us on the earth. Follow this, brothers. It's very important. People always say, okay, you guys claim to know why we're here. Yes, we do. So why are we here? To worship Allah. What's the purpose in the world? To test us. Who will go to Jannah? Who goes to Jahannam? And someone will say, okay, why Allah put us into this test? That's a very good question. Why Allah put us to a test? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has wisdom. He has knowledge. He has the right to test us, but also the test has greater benefits. And here's a big thing. Brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and Allah created not because He needs us. Allah never asked us to worship Him because He needs us. Pay attention to that point. Someone may ask you that, Allah, does He need us? He doesn't need us. What's the proof? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ يُطْعِمُونَ. I don't need them to provide for me. I don't need them to feed me. I like the idols who need food and drink. Allah says, I don't need that. So why He created us? For the greater wisdom. Allah's beautiful names and attributes are manifested and become apparent through our existence. And we are an outcome of Allah's perfection. The fact that Allah has beautiful names and attributes, we are from those effects, the athar of Allah's beautiful names and attributes. Pay attention. Allah is what's one of His names? Al-Hamid, the one who deserves praise. So that would necessitate somebody praises Him. Who's that? Us. Someone will say, what's one of Allah's name? Al-Ilah, the deity, the one who's worshipped. Which means, by necessity, it has to be someone who worships Him. That's us. Allah's beautiful names, Al-Muhsin, So that means Allah does ihsan towards who? Us. There you go. Allah. From Allah we come for the greater reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes, the effects of it. Allah never created us because He needed to. Why? Because He created the malaika before us. And before us, He created the jinn. So what's unique for us then? When we worship Allah, we do it out of choice. The malaika, they do it out of force. Hence, we go to Jannah, Jahannam. They don't. Guys, with me? This is very, very deep. This is what we tell people and tell us why Allah created us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deserves that we worship Him. But we also know Allah's beautiful attributes are manifested, Ibn Qayyim says, by our existence. Because if someone says Allah is Ar-Rahman, He's always Ar-Rahman. He's always Al-Ilah. But Allah is also more so. And the name itself, because it's perfect, it logically leads to the fact that creation and worship Him. Right? When we say Allah praises Himself, then what Allah says, Qul alhamdulillah, you praise Allah too. So we need to understand this point, because some people say, the dunya makes no sense. Allah doesn't have to create us. Allah created us not because He needs us. He created us because it's a greater benefit. And number two, there's some people who say it's not fair Allah created us. You ever hear that argument before? Some atheists say, why? It's not fair. Allah created us, He didn't ask our permission. Yeah, once I have to answer this question. He didn't ask our permission. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created us, what is He going to ask you? You're non-existent. Okay, that's it. It's finished already. How could He ask you? You didn't exist. So He has to create you first, right? Then He doesn't need your permission. Why? Because He's the Creator. The Creator doesn't seek permission from the creation. It's like your mom and dad. Did they ask you to come into existence? I'm sure you guys heard that knucklehead who's suing his parents for bringing him into the world. So you have to tell him. Maybe his parents have to reconsider their decision. This guy's like, I'm suing my parents for bringing him into the world. Who? They should tell him, we made a mistake. We don't know why we got you here. What do you mean we seek your permission? They call pre or post-natalist or something weird because they're crazy people. The point is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need to seek permission. Why? Because our creation is valuable. Number two, who can say, and why they say this? Because they say that the world is tough. The world has accountability. The world has judgment. They say, yes, and what's better? One moment of life or no life? Life is valuable. One moment is better than not existing, right? Who could say, I wish I didn't exist? No, you can't really say that. You know that just even a lahda, the minute of life is beautiful. But we asked them, why are you scared of Allah's punishment? Don't do what gets you there. There's the answer. Some people say, I'm worried about Allah's punishment. So stop doing what you're going to get punished. So you don't have to worry about it. It's like the atheists. Why Allah created Jahannam? Are you going there? That's the question. Are you going there? Yeah, so stop going there. Go to Jannah. Because they always ask us, why Allah created Jahannam? What are you scared of? Are you going there? You see, if you don't believe in it, you shouldn't be scared. Wallahi, guys, they're scared. Wallahi, even the rich guy, Richard Dawkins, telling his people, guys, don't worry, there's nothing after death. Why is he saying that? Because he's scared. He's got one foot in the qabr himself. He's 78. You know what's going to happen when you die. Otherwise, why are you giving a PSA message? Because the atheists are scared. The brothers are scared. They know. You shouldn't be scared that one doesn't exist, right? They're not scared of Allah, but scared of Jahannam. Doesn't make sense. We tell them, if you're scared to become Muslim, do what Allah wants from you. But brothers and sisters, the purpose of existence goes back to one important thing, which Allah is testing us. Allah is testing us because He wants us to worship Him voluntarily. So when someone asks you why Allah didn't just make everybody be Muslim, what's the answer? Allah doesn't want us to become Muslim by force. He wants us to become Muslim by choice. Malaika, they worship Allah by force. All the khalq, they have no choice except for the jinn and the ins. So our choice is that you're tested. Right? Imma shakir, imma kafur. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. Choose your path. So therefore you can get Jannah. Therefore you can get Jahannam. But if Allah didn't give us a choice, didn't say I'm going to put you in Jahannam, that's dhulm. وَلَا يَذِلْمُ رَبُّكَ أَحَدًا. Allah never did that. So the point is the test. And that's why Jannah makes sense. Because you get rewarded for doing the right thing. Otherwise, if we just go in Jannah, doesn't make sense. That's why some people, they ask the question, why Adam ate from the tree? We tell them Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destined Adam to eat from the tree before he was created. It's going to happen. Because the dunya was created for a test. And also as Muslims, we believe this question about existence is a powerful question. Because without it, you can't have life. فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ. That's the question for the non-Muslims. Where are you going? And you can't answer where you're going if you don't know where you came from. See? You have to ask where we're going. I don't know. Because you don't know where you came from. That's it. You can't tell them where you're going if you don't know where you came from. They're still trying to find out where you came from. That's the life work they have. Stephen Hawking, he died, he figured out as much as you could about the world's existence, except you couldn't factor in time, and he died. That's whole life. That's it. He tried a model of existence, and he couldn't finish the time. How does time fit into the cosmology? And he died on that. MashaAllah. The whole life, you figure out where we're going, where we're coming from, still didn't get it? Because they don't know. And then they don't know imagine the same person, you ask them, so what happens later? Can't tell you that. He's still trying to find out where he came from. What guidance are you going to get from that guy? Whereas Muslims, we're sitting here, we know where we came from, where we're going. Allahu Akbar. No wonder so many people love Islam, because it's so clear. A clear line. Where are we going? We're going down like this, we're going to Jannah, Qiyamah is going to have all this. That's the job of the Anbiya Rasul. These people are just finding out, I don't know, when he dies, there's something going to happen there. And no wonder so many people look at that idea as not helping their fitrah. The fitrah does not accept a worldview that cannot explain where am I going. And I want to finish with this point because of the time. And there's a lot more questions that they ask, but this is a big one. If somebody said that, well, the disbelievers, the atheists, their ideas about the world, are they really challenging Islam? And the answer is no. A lot of Muslims, they think the atheist has answers to questions as if they have a religion. They don't have answers. What they have is doubts and speculation. So most of what they have is just, I have doubts about Allah's existence. That's a max they can give you. They have nothing qat'i. They can't bring you nothing clear-cut. It's impossible. So what they're going to bring you, they're going to say, well, maybe God exists, but it's highly improbable. Very unlikely. That's the best you can do. You can't say he doesn't exist, period. No, you can't say that. He knows he can't. That's why the philosophers are much more humble than the scientists. The philosophers, they know the Muslims and the people of Aqidah, they have arguments. So what they do, they lower the standards. They say, okay, God's existence is improbable. That's what they try this. That's the max they can do. But I want to ask a question. Let's agree with you for a second that maybe God doesn't exist. Let's just go with your argument as an assumption. What does your worldview help the world? How does your worldview work? Can it explain to me where I came from? No. Can it explain to me how I'm supposed to live? No. Can it explain to me what will happen later? No. Does it answer the biggest questions of life? No. So then now, Islam, does it answer where we came from? Yes. Does it answer where we're going? Yes. Does it answer all the big questions of life? Yes. So Islam has a higher explanatory power. Pay attention to this word. Explanatory power. Explanations is why we have science, right? Why is blood red? Here's why is the heart do this? Explanation. Why we exist? No answer. So you have lots of holes in the explanation. The biggest atheist, one of the biggest atheists who repented before he died, is Anthony Flew. Some of you probably heard his name before. The big atheist, when his whole career fighting God's existence, and just a couple years before he died, he became a deist. He believed God is out there, but he doesn't know if he's one God, or he didn't follow any religion. Anthony Flew has a book, Why God Exists. Imagine years, decade, a whole career fighting against the idea. To be one of the biggest atheists of our time. Why did he become a believer in God at the end? What led him there? He says that at the end, atheism cannot answer some of the most fundamental questions. It can't account for evil. It can't account for morality. It can't account for consciousness and existence. It can't account for so many things. So what we say is that atheism has a low explanatory power, very da'if explanation power. Muslims have the high explanation power. Why do we get language from? Allah. Allamahul bayan. He taught us language because He's the one who speaks. Where we come from? We got life from one who's all living. Where we come from? We came from a creator. That's why we worship Him. We feel like we want to and we have to. When we die, we're going somewhere, nowhere. Islam has answers for every big question. Someone will say, but so does Christianity. No, it doesn't, brothers. Don't be fooled. The Bible is woefully empty in many questions. Open the Bible, tell me why God created us. No answer. The best they're going to tell you, God said create us to multiply in the earth. That's it. Multiply. To have many kids, that's it. That's all I got. The Bible has nothing to say while we're here. Ask the atheists, how do you know Allah exists? Christian. Prove Allah exists. He takes from the Muslim argument. What are you doing on our side? Taking our stuff. They always come and say, you guys stole from us. So what are you doing here stealing us from us? You ask the Christian why God exists. He tells you the same argument presented to you today. The biggest da'i for the Christians today, the philosopher, his name is William Lane Craig. Some of you guys probably seen him before on YouTube. William Lane Craig is the biggest philosopher of our times, one of the biggest, and the biggest Christian philosopher. What's his argument he makes his da'wah on? He uses the Ghazali argument, the argument I just presented now. I'm khuliqu min ghayri shay'in. It takes from the Quran. MashaAllah, your book doesn't have anything? It doesn't have anything. Yes, there we go. It doesn't have. Ask the Christian, why is there evil on the earth? SubhanAllah, his answer is so da'if. So da'if. That's why the atheists were able to attack them, because their arguments are not good. So even Christianity, even though it has answers to big questions, their question answers are so da'if. Plus, their aqidah doesn't make sense. 3 and 1 and 3. Some will say, okay, how about, for example, other religions? Same question. So even if you use an argument, Islam, why is it right? It explains every big and small question with an explanation that number one exists and is consistent and is rational and textual. Key word textual, it's in the books. And number 2, rational, it satisfies the soul. I could give you an answer now, brother and sister, but if it's not in the Quran and Hadith, it's batil, right? I made it up. Someone will say, I have an answer. Where is it in your book? Because you say the book is from God, right? The one thing everyone's shocked about Islam, when we answer something, قال الله وقال رسول. They say, subhanAllah, you have everything قال Rasul, everything قال الله قال Rasul. Right now, if we talk about atheism, I'm going to bring you hadith. We talk fiqh class, I bring you hadith, ayah. We're talking about something else, Quran, hadith, akhlaq. We never go away from the Quran and hadith. This is the thing that Muslims have to understand. Wallahi, many of us, the problem we have, brothers and sisters, we've never actually looked at our deen deeply. There is nothing like it. This is the biggest, this is the most, this is the truth. It's by fact. Many of the greatest enemies of Islam admitted it. And I spoke about it before. One of the biggest enemies of hadith sciences, the Jewish man, is a hadith or he's Orientalist. He says, I just wish, because he's Jews, I wish we had even just one isnad, something like the Islam Muslims have. He almost became Muslim. The guy whose whole life is trying to prove hadith wrong, he used to go Jum'ah Salah in Egypt. Jum'ah Salah is a Jew, man. He loved adhan. He loves it because deen, brothers and sisters, not a joke. Somebody who's on the other side, they know. But shahid ahli, that's the problem. We take it for granted the haqq we're standing on because we've never actually looked at the other side before. And I'm telling you this with 100% confidence. So we need not only to study more about Islam, but also understand what's going on this kind of attack against Islam. They're attacking the vulnerable, the one who doesn't know. Not me, you, Nabi, because we're in the masjid now. Our brothers and sisters and our students and our children, they're the ones who are getting confused about atheism. You can't tell me I left Islam, you never knew it. You can't tell me I've doubt about Islam, you never studied it. Right? This is what's happening to some of them have a doubt. What do you know anyways? Of course you have doubt, you're in bad state. But we need to also remember, when we see someone like that, we have to be the first line of defense. You see, today the people call them masajid. You have to call everyone in the house should be someone who can answer these things. There's nothing too big, nothing too small. But what's happening, we need to go out of our way a little bit, to learn a little bit. But even these arguments we presented today, they're more than enough, brothers. Allahi, you see today how the people are coming to Islam. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. It's as Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Islam went to every house. It's happening. We're witnessing it. But we also need part of it. That's the last point. The reason why we're doing this class is not for us to listen to all the arguments. Learn it, master it, and take it to people who need it. And need everyone to understand we need to do da'wah, all of us. At work, at school, on the bus, in the train, in Uber. Anyone comes to you, Muslim, why not? Hey, let me tell you this. Don't be ever think the other guy he knows anything better. He doesn't. Most people are going to say, I know nothing. Because they don't know. Or if he studied or something else, you can still present them good arguments. Your job is just to share it. Because when we hear about how atheism is growing 30%, the disturbing part is how can it be that they're growing so much and the Muslims are here and people of faith are here? How is that happening? Right? It's only happening because our knowledge maybe is lower and then they're more, right? Either more proud or they're more learned in their batil. Batil can never face up in truth. So inshallah we'll end with this much. Next week we'll talk about the next few arguments within this line. So once you establish Allah exists for the atheists, the next two, we already established number 2 before. We can prove Allah is one. That's easy. We already showed you how. Then we look at the number 3. We have to explain the prophets and messengers. Why Allah speaks through them. Why Allah doesn't speak to us. This is a very good question. It's something people ask Allah, so we should be able to answer that. And the last one we're going to talk about Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We already spoke about it. And we have a whole series on it in the Quran Da'wah. How proves the prophethood. So how we know Prophet Muhammad is covered, we already studied it. A number of lectures. You can go back there, many proofs. Because some will say to you, how do you know Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a prophet? So you have to tell them all the different reasons. Inshallah, we'll end with this much. If you don't have any questions, we'll take a bit of ta'ala. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a very good question the brother's asking. The atheists, when you present the argument, they say, sure, but who caused Allah? Everything that began to exist or everything that's caused had a cause, who caused Allah? So the answer to that question is simple. Allah never has a cause because He's the creator. He never began to exist, He always existed. So they misunderstood what Allah is. Allah is not a creation, right? It's a creator. So you have to stop somewhere and start somewhere. We say Allah is the beginning of everything. He's not a creation, so He can't be created. God, Allah, deity, by definition, is one who's not created. So it's like saying, who created the creator? No, I'm talking about creator. No, don't mix with the creator. the creation. So that's a fallacy, that question. It's a paradoxical question. And number two, we said began to exist or came into existence. Allah never began to exist. Right? He's always existed. He always existed. So this is the same thing. Richard Dawkins uses arguments, the same point. And a lot of the philosophers, his own atheist friends, his name is, what's his name now? I forget now. He's a famous, Michael Roos, that's his name. He said, Richard Dawkins made me embarrassed to be an atheist when I read what nonsense he's writing. Because the atheist says, what kind of nonsense is that? Because anyone who's in level 1 Aqidah knows that doesn't apply. Because creation and creator, we're talking creation, that has a cause. Creator doesn't. So you can't apply that to the creator because the creator created everything, is a God. And if someone says, no, you can't say that, we say we have to stop somewhere. Otherwise, we can't exist. And that's why someone say, if you keep saying, what created something, what's going to happen? Infinite regress of dependent things. We're going to keep going back infinitely. So we know the chain started somewhere and ended somewhere. How do we know? I'm here today. You're here today. That means it's a beginning. And what's the proof in the Quran? وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ مُنْتَهَا. And all the things end eventually with Allah. So if someone says, no, that Allah is a cause and He is a God, number two, and what's going to happen? I never came here. He never came here. So tell someone, it started somewhere, therefore it has to be Allah. And if someone says not Allah, we say they're going to have to bring reasons. So this is a very important doubt that brother mentioned that's very common, but very, very daif. Anyone who knows this argument, it doesn't work. So Richard Dawkins has another argument he presents. Maybe another time we'll mention it. But this one is, like I said, Michael Roos said, I'm embarrassed. I'm an atheist when I heard this kind of stuff he's writing. In the God delusion, he said, La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. He said, what kind of arguments is this? Any freshman university student knows the answer to that. And that's why, like I said, the philosophers amongst the atheists, they're way more humble. Like, they will never say God doesn't exist. They'll say, well, they have some reservations, but they're very careful. As the scientists are going to say, yeah, I proved God doesn't exist. Richard Dawkins said aliens could make the universe. I'm sure you guys saw that. And recently he talked to Piers Morgan a couple of months ago or a year ago. I'm sure maybe you guys saw that. And when he pressed him, what created the universe, he said it could be extraterrestrial being. Aliens, mashallah, very logical. Allah, no. Aliens, maybe, you know. He got so frantic, he said, you don't know and I don't know, no one knows. Why are you so defensive? Just because you don't know doesn't mean I don't know. Imagine, brother, he's 78 years old, he's behaving like this. Imagine, he's supposed, even his biggest colleagues, they don't agree with him and this other stuff because he doesn't have anything. So that's a good way to reply to that. Otherwise, Islamically, there's an answer to it. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam actually spoke about this. Talk about Islam, right? There's a hadith in this. Bukhari and Muslim. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Shaitan will come, Shaitan ya'ti ila ahadikum. Shaitan will come to any one of you. And will say, Man khalaqa hadha, wa man khalaqa hadha. Who created this? Who created that? Shaitan comes. So this question is satanic. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, finally, Shaitan's going to say, Hadha Allah man khalaqa. This is Allah who created him. So the Prophet said, whenever that happens, say, Amantu billahi wa rusulih. It will go away. See, Islamically, we don't go into logical. Just say, no, it's from Shaitan. And Shaitan here brings you anything to get you out. Weak arguments, strong arguments. So ulama say, why Nabi Sallallahu told us to say, Amantu billahi wa rasulih? He didn't tell us to argue rationally against it. Because the answer is very easy. But also because the Shaykh Islam Taymi mentions a beautiful benefit. Imagine now, Shaitan threw you a doubt. When you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, you're asking the Lord of the Shaitan to hold Shaitan's doubt away from you and from him. He said, Ibn Taymiyyah is an example of someone walking down a street. The dog jumps at you. So you have two choices. You're going to get the stick and start fighting the dog. That's you wrestling with the argument logically. Or you can call the owner of the dog and say, hey, get your dog out of here. And he's going to move the dog and you walk. That's asking Allah. Allahu Akbar. See, brothers? Quwwah. Sometimes we say we got to get the stick. Brothers, you don't get the stick. Ask Allah. Some of us, we're always fighting the stick day and night. You don't need to ask Allah. What are you doing? You see some people, he's wrestling at home. He's home down. So he always fighting dogs. Well, you just say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. And also side benefit. Whenever you say a dog barking, you're supposed to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. See? Ibn Taymiyyah, mashallah. Very good argument. That's a very good example. Right? It's very deep. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be able to have these answers because today we need it, brothers. We need this. Like I work with the youth, it's a very big deal. This is a big deal. We need these answers. Some questions from sisters. This is, how can I help my atheist brother who says he realized the wisdom of the Sharia now, but just wants to take those lessons without becoming Muslim? So this is the thing. You can't take, the fruits or the goods of the religion without taking it whole scale. وَدْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَةً. Today, atheists, they know Islam has a lot of offering. And even the Westerners have done it. They always taking our things and they never put made by Islam or brought by Islam, They made by China. They don't want to say brought by Islam. This is a big problem. We say if you believe there's a wisdom in the Sharia, the question is who's the Shari'? How can you believe in the wisdom of a legislation and you don't want to accept the legislator? If you accept the legislator, not only are you going to feel more comfortable, and you're also going to benefit more from the Sharia, you're also going to get what you don't get when you take the benefits. Islam is not just about the rational brain, brothers and sisters, the nafs. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah mentions something beautiful. He says the qalb, it's always wavering and moving up and down. It's never settled until you become a worshipper of Allah. When you worship Allah, it settles because Allah created it, longing for that. How do we know Allah created us for us to know Him? The proof, the last ayah in Surah Talaq. Allahu alladhi khalaqa sab'a samawati. Right, what is it? وَالْأَرْضِ مِثْلُهُنَّ. Allah created sab'a samawati. Right? Allah created 7 heavens and وَالْأَرْضِ مِثْلُهُنَّ. The earth likewise, 7. Why? وَيَتَنَزَّلُ الْأَمْرُ بَيْنَهُنَّ. Allah reveals the revelation between them. لِيَعْلَمُوا. So you know. أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Allah created everything so you get to know Him. Once you get to know Him, khalas. That's the big question everyone was trying to get to. Why am I here? Who created me? Allah. The qalb becomes so happy, so free. And that's why if someone says, I want to take the Sharia, you got the fruits, but you're still missing the big one. That's that tumanina. Allah says in the Quran, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلْنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. Brothers and sisters, most of us, we don't know. We're living in raha. Muslims always, mashallah, everything says alhamdulillah. He could be poor as ever, he could be broke, he could be sick. He says alhamdulillah. The kafir, he can never say alhamdulillah because our qalb is settled with Islam. So if someone knows this, we tell him, look, you already got the wisdom of Allah in the Sharia. Get the legislator. Your nafs is going to thank you. Your life is going to be in order. You're going to be more prosperous because barakah will come to your life. The greatest people in the world were mostly believers of God. But we know the best people in the world are prophets and messengers. You can't beat them. So we tell them, once you got that far, it's a checkmate. You gotta accept the Sharia. You can't accept the legislation without the legislator. You know, so may Allah guide him. But often the reason why people are hesitant to accept Islam after they realize it is that changes in life, lifestyle changes. But we have to explain to people lifestyle changes in Islam are not going to be so difficult. In the beginning it is, but everything's difficult at the beginning. But also remember, whatever Allah tells you to do, it's going to help you. So you take it with enthusiasm. So we encourage this person just to make that next step. With trust, you will see your life become very different. And your strength will increase. Your iman will increase. Your life will become more peaceful. And also you'll get the other benefits that the brain can't get. Knowing the truth is not like living it. We need to live it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow him to accept Islam. Question says, he said if any religion is right, it will be Islam, but he doesn't believe there is a God. You can't say that, right? Because if Islam is right, then who brought it? Truth is one. See, this is the key. If you say there's no God, there's no life. There's no God, there's no truth. Al-haqqu min rabbik. فَمَاذَا بَعْدُ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالِ. You gotta choose. Today we're talking about truth, justice, and values. Where did they come from? Human rights. Where does it come from? Allah. When you take Allah out of the equation, no human rights. So the atheists today, they believe in human rights. You tell them, what's the foundation? No foundation. MashaAllah. That's a fallacy. That's a paradox. You can't have human rights without a creator. If today someone said Islam is right, but I don't want to accept Allah, ask them, how did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam know about all these things? You gotta be scientific, right? How did the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam know about the future? That's one of the strongest and easiest arguments for Allah's existence, right? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, one of his proofs of prophethood is the prophecies of the Qiyamah, right? Just give first one of them. Once I talked to one non-Muslim, I told him, you know the Prophet Muhammad spoke about buildings being built by the Bedouin Arab, and the tallest building today is in Dubai. He said, I never knew. I said, yeah, that's why we're Muslim. We don't just. But he was shocked. Asked him, you know, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said like hundreds of minor signs. For example, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke about the car. Yeah, you see, our deen is not like other deens. You just talk once upon a time. You know, it's a big problem. Many people think religion is like old. Islam is only religion. When you open the Quran, it's talking to you. Allah is talking to you. Some non-Muslims say, I'm amazed, Allah's talking to me. Yeah, it's a book of guidance. And the Sharia tells you, and the end of time will happen, and this will happen, and do this. And you know what the Sahaba used to do, brothers and sisters? They used to live life like that. You know, the Sahaba, the difference between us and them, obviously, that they lived in the time of the Wahi. But they used the Wahi as a blueprint for life. One example, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Hadith Muslim, he said, day of judgment will not come, or day of judgment will be coming after certain signs. Count them. And one of them, he said, my death, then the opening, or the Fatih, the conquest of Jerusalem, then that of Egypt. Another version of Hadith, he said, when Egypt's conquered, and you see two people fighting over a brick, leave the place. Pay attention to Hadith Muslim. Sahabi said, we were there in Egypt. Is this a coincidence? Nabi Sallallahu said it. He said, we were there. Years later. It's a Khilafah happened to Khilafah Umar. He said, and one day I saw two men fighting over a brick. He said, I got up and left. Kama qala Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Which religion is like this, brothers? You have everything detailed. One day I asked Abdullah ibn Amr, asked, what's going to happen in the time? He said, get my trunk with the hadith. Abdullah ibn Amr used to write the hadith. And he opened, he said, okay, Constantinople. This is our deen, brothers. We could open and show you things. Other people are going to just make up things. This is Islam, brothers. Allah didn't leave us nothing. Tibyan li kulli shay. But what happens if we told someone, do you think Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got all this by himself? 7th century Arabia, they didn't have any amount of knowledge like this. So you have to conclude logically the poverty of resources at that time. There's not enough information. Quraysh are not Ahlul Kitab. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got wahi, and he has more than Ahlul Kitab. Ahlul Kitab came to him, he answered them. So somebody has to be honest and tell their ego, what's stopping you? Sometimes it's not because of the logical side, it's the emotional side. And I believe it's so often social. And when you become a Muslim, there is a difficulty in today's time because Muslims are being mistreated by the media and the public. I believe this also deters people from taking that next step. Shaitan even will come. Hadith says, Sahih, that whenever someone wants to accept Islam, Shaitan will come to his path and say, you're going to leave the way of your forefathers. If that doesn't work, he's going to say, you're going to have to pray. He brings so many things to try to stop them. So we ask the person, once you believe Islam is right, just ask a simple question. Who brought it? Where did Islam come from? It's like saying that Islam, it's like saying, for example, Islam is right, but it's from Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said he's a man of God. He's a really prophet of Allah. So come on. Is he right in that too? See? You could corner him. Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you believe his religion is right? You believe that he came with truth. Well, he also said he's a prophet of God. That must be true too, right? So that, he also said God exists. That must be true, right? So obviously, most people, they know this is the case. May Allah guide him. I believe over time, inshallah, the truth will become more clear to many. Last question before we finish. Next week we'll continue. Subhanakallah bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.